It's preparing.
There
We're
you
good.
go. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back. My name is Russell. I'm here with Randall and Danny. How you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Doing
Welcome
well,
back,
man.
Russell. You were severely missed last week.
I know. I missed you guys too. I was here in spirit and chat. I was in the chat. I know. I was being parent last week, but this week I'm back full
Hey, things
force.
happen. You gotta do stuff
Yeah.
sometimes, you know?
Yeah. How you guys doing this week? By the way, it's February 3rd at 9 a.m. Welcome everybody in
I
code.
know that half the people listen to this just to find out what day and time it is.
It is true. You know, all of them are here right at the beginning too, when I actually say that.
I can't spell today. I'm having a hard time. What the hell? Sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those
Yeah.
days, man. We had
It is.
technical difficulties trying to get on here this morning. That's why we're like a minute late. The internet was not working. So we're good though.
Yeah.
We're good now. So
Yeah. I've
how
had a
you guys
challenging
doing?
week.
You have,
Had a
yeah.
challenging week. Yeah, but
Yeah.
some of those sometimes it's just you just got to get through it. Like you do all you can just to get through it.
Yeah. When you say challenging, like difficult week, because I feel like this week just flew by. Like
It did fly by.
God,
Hmm.
Dude, I felt like it
Yeah.
was like I felt like we did this like literally like yesterday.
yesterday.
You
Yeah.
know, and like we're doing it again. It was so fast. I don't know, I
Yeah.
agree.
Hmm.
I had a rough beginning of the week. The weather was really terrible up here and it always messes
Mm.
with my head. I had migraines for like 3 days. Just never
Yeah.
fun.
I know it got all
But
the way down to like 70 degrees here this week.
uh, uh,
Ooh, how do you
Uh,
survive?
I don't know, lots of sweatshirts.
Did it snow?
Nah, it was close though. It was like this close.
Yeah.
couple degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys been
Anyway,
doing some coding work this week or like what have you been up to?
Oh yeah. I was coding a little thing like a YouTube scraper and then I quit because I was busy
Oh,
doing other
nice.
stuff. But
I
yeah.
coded one of those a little while ago. They're kind of fun. You're using the YouTube data API?
No, I was just doing it using Selenium.
Oh, okay.
So not even accessing the YouTube API.
I meant to tell you by the way, because I was playing around with Bard because Google just
Mhm.
updated it. One of the extensions is YouTube now. Connects directly to it.
Oh, that's pretty
Mm.
cool.
You can
That's
like search.
crazy.
I think you can search it. I think you can get it to like summarize stuff. It looks pretty
Wow.
interesting. I haven't messed with it yet, but I was going to.
That's pretty
Whoa.
awesome.
Yeah,
Sounds like a fun one.
so that'll be
Well,
cool.
I hope everyone here. Do you want to do your comment announcement, Randall? Like you want to tell people,
Oh, for
or
those
should
of
I
you
tell the topic
watching the
first?
video already right now. Yeah, let's go for the topic first.
All right. So today's topic is why boot camps are failing because I've seen this like over and over and over again in Reddit on news articles. It seems like the end of last year and the beginning of this year, there's just been tons and tons of boot camps that are failing. And it makes me think, why are they failing? And what do boot camps offer anymore for developers? Because I think, my suspicion is that a lot of the promises that boot camps make just are not feasible anymore, particularly in this market and, with tech layoffs and all that stuff. So yeah, I want to dig deep into why boot camps are failing and what we can do as developers to get a better education, even if we're not in a boot camp. Because I mean, we all went to boot camp and we all have experiences with that are not the greatest. So now you can do your announcement.
For those of you watching the video right now, let us know down in the comments. Have you gone to a boot camp? Have you ever thought about going to a boot camp? Do you maybe think boot camps are stupid? If you have gone to a boot camp, do you think you benefited from it? Was it a waste of money? Could you have learned other things? Let us know down below.
Yeah.
You
So
do
let's
that
get
so
right into it.
consistently. It's like almost like a recording.
Yeah. It's almost like Randall is an AI. Hmm.
Yeah, like a co-host.
I
Hmm.
can't prove that I'm not.
Yeah, isn't it weird that like AI is like significantly smarter than most people? I
Mm.
just think that's like kind of crazy. Like we have to really have some presence with that idea that like AI is genuinely you can ask it a question that 99% of people can't answer and it'll usually get it right.
But you
It's
know
like
what? You
smarter
can
than
do the
human.
same thing. You can do the same thing with Google. Like I was thinking about this the other day,
That's true.
how
Mhm.
like we really think that AI is like everything, but we kind of just ask AI the same questions we used to ask Google. And like
Yeah.
before that, we used to ask it to a librarian. So it's like we're just kind of making it a little bit easier, and I guess making ourselves a little bit less intelligent at the same time. But it's at this point, it hasn't done all the stuff yet. I mean, we don't have
Yeah.
Skynet yet.
No.
Well, I've been reading this book called Deep Learning, and it talks about like AI and how AI works. And one of the interesting things is in the beginning, it talks about like what is AI and how our definition of AI has changed and continuously changes. And really, like most of the time when we use the term AI, it just refers to any new technological advancement. Like a few years ago, we said that Siri was AI, and then we say like self-driving cars or AI, and basically anything that is new and revolutionary tech that we can't really explain that well. We just say it's AI, and then later down the road, when better tech comes out, that tech just gets like enough like self-driving
Yeah,
or
we'd be better
Siri.
off probably being more explicit and saying it's like machine learning or
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
something like that because that's says really what it is and
Right.
what its capabilities are. Like they were
Yeah.
working on, I remember reading they were working on MIT was working on. I forget what they called it. It was like fluid or liquid or something, machine learning, but it's
Mhm.
the type where it can learn also from its prompts and ongoing. So you
Mhm.
don't just you train it, you put it out in the world, but then it continuously learns, which a lot of the models that we use now don't. So they're
Yeah.
capped at a certain level of knowledge. They have to update it, right? And this would be continuous. But the problem with that is that it's also learning from its prompts, and then God knows what, right?
What are you
Okay.
laughing at?
So funny. So I just went to my first like cybersecurity convention. It was a lot of fun. One of the
Mhm.
guys was talking about using ChatGPT for answering things. So he was like, he asked ChatGPT, he's like, what's four plus or what's 4 plus 3? And ChatGPT is like 7. And he's
Mhm.
like, well, my wife says 4 plus 4 or 4 plus 3 is 8. And ChatGPT is like, based on my information, 4 plus 3 is 7. But I haven't been updated since, or my date is only good up until 2001. Maybe something's changed. If your wife says that it's 8, then it must be 8. Just like,
True.
Well, that's the
that's
other
good.
Never
people
question the
don't
wife.
realize it's like it's a people pleaser, is what it
Yeah.
is. So you do have to watch because it will aim to make you happy rather than like truth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just like people.
Well, I'm gonna transition this back to like the actual
Mhm.
topic of the day.
Oh, back on
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah. So I have a good transition though. So our boot camp, new camp that we actually went to, they have started this like AI boot camp because clearly they have issues. I think it's funny too. I noticed this trend is that all of the boot camp CEOs go on Reddit and these different forums to try to defend the boot camp, and they just get torn apart. And the CEO of New Camp is no different. I mean, we tried to bring up our complaints to New Camp when we were actually in the boot camp, and everything sort of went on deaf ears. And so I think that's really the start of why so many boot camps are failing, right? Because I'm just gonna say mine, right? I think they create false expectations for people, right? In
Yeah.
how easy it is or how effortless, I think is a better word, it is to get a job in tech, right? Like, oh,
Wait,
you just take our boot camp and then you're instantly going to get a job at Google. Go ahead,
hold on.
Danny.
Can I say something on that point? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they advertised because I remember what New Camp advertised that it was
Yeah.
within 6 months that like I forget what there was like 80 or 90% of people had a job, which is impossible. Dude, if you're
Yeah.
starting from zero in a year, there's
Yeah.
no way that you're gonna get that. Like, I'm just not gonna work. And
Yeah.
it didn't. It doesn't pan out.
It doesn't. And there's a couple of reasons why, which we'll get into, but um like I saw that recently with another one. There's one called Le Wagon. That's I think a French boot
The
camp.
French wagon.
Yeah. This is Le Wagon. And they closed, I think, last year, and there's like a lot of controversy over it. A lot of people were very upset over this boot camp closing, and uh, oh, I'm lay lagwagon. Am I lagging?
Not to me, but it could
Oh,
be. I don't know. There's some type of lag problem
okay.
today.
Boot camp. I mean, boot camp. Zoom is not having fun with this today. Anyway, they closed. And a lot of the reason they closed is because they were making these crazy guarantees. And one of the things that came out was they had made this guarantee that 90% of something like this, like 90% of people who graduate get a job within a certain amount of time. And it came out later that this statistic was created by an internal questionnaire that they did. So they chose a few people that graduated from Lewagen, just a few of them, and asked them like how soon did you get a job? And of course they chose the people who got a job instantly. So they were saying 90% of people would get a job within like 6 months. And the truth was it was maybe 1%. There's other things that caused that company to close and other griefs, I guess, that people had against them. But that's pretty exemplary. I mean, I think it's true that we have to have a realistic expectation and time horizon, and also a realistic understanding of what effort you have to be putting in as a developer to get a job, because it's not impossible. People do it. They start from zero and get a
Yeah.
job at Google in a year. It is possible, but it's not easy. It's not as effortless as all these boot camps make it sound.
Yeah.
So that's the start of it.
I think they make this, well, they do the same thing colleges do, dude, which is I think they use an antiquated education system that
Mhm.
like has not been updated and isn't updated for like what you're doing, which I think is problematic.
Yeah.
And they, it's the same problem with colleges where like you see like this false advertising because we allow for like puffery in advertising, which is borderline lying. And
Yeah.
it works just like that. If you ask five people and four say yes, they got a job in 6 months, they can say 80% of people, that we asked, they just don't
Yeah.
say that, And
Exactly.
like and that's the problem because you get these false expectations and then they don't get met when, you pay the money to do this. And they don't give you a clear idea either of like, 'cause I remember like New Camp told us like, it's like an hour or two a day. Dude, I probably
Yeah.
spent like 8 hours a day at least working on stuff to like
Yeah.
learn. Like, that's not enough time. Like if
I
you're
mean,
gonna do that, it is enough time if you're gonna do it long, if you have a longer scale and you're like clearly focusing on something, but to go all those topics that they cover, and I don't think it's enough time.
yeah. The other thing I noticed was they make these huge claims, and then you look at the actual instructors, and I would say 9 out of 10 instructors that we had couldn't even get an interview at Google if they tried, because they're just not there yet. And that's not like a criticism. I mean, I think everybody's capable of teaching somebody something that they know, but to make these huge claims of you're going to get a job in tech, and then you look at your instructors and half of them only work for your boot camp and graduated from your boot camp, that doesn't make sense. Like, that's not accurate. The other
No.
thing to me that's like a huge factor that many boot camps leave out is that Google doesn't hire tech. They don't hire code, they hire people,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I think a lot of boot camps leave out, is that you have to be a well-rounded person first, right? They hire you because you are a person, because of all the other skills, plus the fact that you know how to code, right? The education is almost like the last thing, because there's so many people that know how to code. And I think the best way to actually differentiate yourself from other people is to be a better person first, and then worry about the tech, because you can always learn the tech and there's always going to be new tech. And honestly, like, I get a lot of freelance work right now and zero people ask me if I know the tech. What happens is I get
Yeah.
the freelance work because people know who I am as a person and that I can solve problems if I need to, and I can figure out an answer. But like zero of
And
them are like,
because they've seen your websites and they want to know who you had do the web design.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They want to see who designed it, and I'm like, that's me. That's why you would hire me. That's how it works. So I think
That's
that's
funny.
huge.
It's funny. I was just talking to somebody the other day, actually, and they were like talking about this project that I did, and they're like, "Well, who did you work with to do that?" I was like, "It was just me." And they're like, "But yeah, but like, who was on your team to like help?" Like, I did all. I was like, I did all of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like everything.
It's called
It's a
full
lot.
stack. Full
Yeah,
stack. Yeah.
by myself.
It's just
Yeah, it's a lot.
how it is. The other thing I saw the other day, which I'm gonna read some parts of, but I thought this was kind of interesting. This was on Reddit in the R coding bootcamp uh subreddit. And it was somebody who posted basically a post for everybody who's thinking about going into boot camp, talking about all the things they don't explain in a boot camp. And something that I noticed is most boot camps, they want to get you to their interest is getting you to click the buy button, right? And so part of that means they're going to show off all these different things that you're going to learn, right? That's what happened with New Camp. When we went there, we did the full stack developers like roadmap or whatever. And there's a list of, 30 technologies that you're going to learn. The truth is, we didn't learn any of them. We heard about 30 technologies and we played with them, but we didn't learn any of them, right? That's on you as a developer to learn those on your own free time, because doing, 20 minutes of coding on Docker does not mean that you understand Docker, or, an hour to 2 hours a week, like for 1 day or 2 days on SQL doesn't mean that you know everything. You couldn't get a job as an SQL developer.
Well, yeah, it's all tutorial following basically is what it is,
Exactly.
because that's essentially how they, I mean, it was essentially a set of tutorials that you're following. So it's like, yeah, you did it, but it's like in the same way that you learned how to do something if you follow a YouTube tutorial, like you don't really know it just by doing it once, going through it once.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so I'm going to read this list because this I think is important, right? This is somebody who's done a boot camp and they basically just said, these are some things that you really need to know as a developer, and they don't typically cover in a boot camp. Number one is Git and GitHub. And I think that's huge because I don't think we talked about it. I know we talked about it in the boot camp, but we never really used it to any extent in our boot camp. And that's something that as a developer, you're pretty much going to use daily, right? I use it daily just, to save my work somewhere. And also when you're working with teams, you have to like nonstop have to. So that's a huge one. The second one is architecture, which I think again
Yeah.
is like monster thing, right? They just we just built an app when we were in boot camp, but they didn't talk about why we're using this or why we're using that. There's a million different technologies now, and you need to understand why you're choosing one technology over another. Why am I choosing SQL and not NoSQL? Why am I choosing React and not Next? Why am I choosing all these different things, right? Go ahead, Danny.
No, I was gonna say that gets into designing it too, the architecture. Like, what's
Yeah.
it supposed to look like from the get-go so you know? And yeah, you're right. They never gave us explanations on that, which is like would have been really
Yeah.
helpful, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like using Kanban boards and user flows and user stories and things like that are very important, right? And you use them all the time. Like I use them in Lever all the time, which is a company I work for, is, we have to understand how a user is going to engage with our website and our web app.
U- User
And we
stories are
never talk
part of
about that.
Agile. Everybody uses them, and they didn't cover anything about it, like
Yeah.
which is insane.
Yeah. Here's another one. Learn how to ask a question. Not ever, no, nobody there actually wanted to answer any questions because most of the time they didn't actually know the answer, but nobody teaches you how to ask a question. Like I see this in tons of other coding groups too, and I'm sure like everybody who's watching probably has seen this because a lot of people are in other groups as well. And you'll see somebody in a group who will say, I'm having an issue with this. And then they'll post like a clip of like the corner of a website. And you're like, how is that effective? You're not going to get an answer if you're not telling people what it is that you're having an issue with, what you've tried, what your code looks like, these sort of things. So, uh, understanding how to ask a question so that you can get a good answer, and also how to answer a question on your own, because that's huge too, right?
Yeah.
Is you're as a developer, you're tasked at solving these problems on your own. Uh, yeah, Rachel said, I can't figure it out. A page of code. That's basically what most people do. They're like, I can't figure it out. Here's all my code. And they don't actually tell you what they can't figure out or anything like that. Right. So here's some more. Don't repeat yourself. Huge principle, right? When we're writing code, we try to save time by not repeating ourselves. So, what are you laughing at?
Well, you said don't repeat yourself. Huge, 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 huge
Huge, huge, huge.
principle.
I'm talking about
Was
code, not
that?
about talking. You're allowed to repeat yourself on talking.
Well, actually, that's a good one too. Or like that one, I think like the do not like the
Get
drive
paid.
principle like would have been good to like cover like again like reinforce halfway through. Like you've done all this stuff, now go back through and
Yeah,
find out where you repeated yourself and where you can refactor and how you can make this shorter and cleaner. But they never covered any of
yeah. They never even covered refactoring or what that meant.
I think
that.
my
That's
I
true.
think there was kind of a time crunch because they literally tried to teach us every technology from like
Yeah,
1990 until the present and do
yeah,
that in 6 months or a year, 11 months, I think it was. And
yeah,
so it just made it where like you would have literally a week to learn an entire technology. And basically by learn it, you would write a Hello World program in whatever technology. So we wrote
exactly.
30 different Hello World programs over the course of a year
Hmm.
and didn't learn anything.
Yeah, totally. It's super true. Um, Here's some other ones. Don't depend on packages, right? First of all, they didn't really even tell us what a package is or how package works. But yeah, I think
But they
this is
used them.
they use them, a
They
lot of
definitely
them,
use frameworks and packages.
tons of them, and they don't explain that there's danger in doing that, right? Because then you're relying on somebody else's code. And if it's something where you can do it like easy enough on your own, you probably should just code it on your own. Because then you're relying on somebody else's code, which can be breaking with updates and all that kind of stuff. You don't have much control over it. There
There's
could
also
be
a reason why
security
only like
vulnerabilities.
there's like a handful of packages that get used a lot, and there's a reason why. Because
Right.
they're good, they're up to a lot of, and the good ones are usually recommended by, usually the
Yeah.
framework or something will recommend like use this one if you want like routing or whatever.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
well maintained. They're like tested and all that stuff. And here's another one. I think this is probably the last one, which is learn how to read a big project, right? Or how to like really build, I think, and read a big project because code bases can get huge. And when they get really large, even when they get somewhat large, it can be really difficult to see what's going on in an application and how it functions. And I think every single thing that we built was maybe like 3 files or something, right? We didn't never like had some monster application that they were like, this is how it works, and this is, walked us through it. So those are just some, right? And so yeah, I think this is why a lot of boot camps are failing because students are becoming wise to the fact that just like sort of all of us did that we realized, in this generation, a bachelor's degree doesn't mean as much as it used to in like our parents' generation. It's sort of the same thing. It's like this next generation, coding boot camps don't mean as much as they used to, right? Because people are getting aware that boot camps they're lacking. They don't teach you everything. And they're not just like the fix, right? You don't just take a boot camp and immediately get a job. There's a lot more to it. You have to know how to communicate, network. Go ahead, Randall. Share your
So
thought.
I think that boot camp is an appropriate term. It's almost an analogy to a military boot camp because a
Mm.
military boot camp is not going to make you a master sergeant, is not going to make you a Navy SEAL, is not going to make you very good. A boot camp is going to basically prepare you enough so that you can go and possibly be cannon fodder, you know,
Yeah.
but hopefully survive. And I think that as an analogy for a boot camp is helpful because that's literally the most that you can expect from it. Like I remember when we were going to do the boot camp, I knew for myself it was just to get back into the newest technologies. And I think it
Yeah.
was good for all of us because it did get us started and it got us essentially to the front lines to where
Yeah.
either we could be cannon fodder or we could really put in the work to become something. And I think in that course, yes, a boot camp can be helpful, but you got to know what you're getting yourself into.
Well, this
Yeah.
is the problem with, I think, all education, which is because they're so desperate to sell and the costs are getting so high, they want to make it sound like it's an easy fix. Like you do this, you're guaranteed, right? Like the
Yeah.
piece of paper equates to job, but it doesn't. And they don't want to tell you all the work you have to put in, like you said, right? To be that smart, you got to put in a lot of work on your own. And I
Yeah.
mean, we saw that all the time. How many of our like workshops we went to where everybody else didn't know how to do anything?
Mhm.
Like,
And
and it's like because they weren't
didn't
putting the
want to
work in.
try, right? I think
Yeah.
one of the things that you have to learn as a new developer is that it's okay to be wrong sometimes, and it's okay to like mess up and make
Break things.
mistakes. Yeah,
You're
and
gonna break
break
things all the
things.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's part of learning, right? And a lot of times in our boot camp, it's just like it, it's people are too scared to actually break something or do something wrong that a lot of the people in our boot camp, I don't think we were included in that because we sort of had our own mentoring group together, right? Where we were like working together on things. But a lot of people just sat there and didn't even do assignments because they were too scared to get it wrong or to break something or to mess up or to look stupid in front of other people. And so they really handicap themselves. They pay all this money to just sit there and really, like, to me, at this point, a boot camp is really a glorified Udemy course, right? Because you can go on Udemy and get everything that we learned in a course for $129 or like $12 when it's on sale,
Mhm.
right? You can get all of it on there. And that's what it is. It's basically a Udemy course, but you get, you know, a random person who you can talk to for a few hours on one day a week who like goes over the same thing, but that's about it. They don't give you extra anything. And a lot of times that person wasn't even capable of like teaching that stuff. So yeah, I think my question to you guys is what do you think is a better option for developers now? Like if you're not going to do a boot camp, what should you do as a developer? Because just saying that boot camps suck doesn't really help anybody.
I mean, I think one of the hardest things when you're starting out is staying motivated and like staying accountable to your plan. And so I think having other people is crucial. Like what we did
Yeah.
really helped me because we were meeting weekly. So it was like that motivated me to stay focused on what I was doing, to try things, to keep going, even when it was hard, even when I felt like imposter syndrome, even when I felt like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so having a group or having somebody there to help you, that mentor role is really, I think, crucial to keep
Yeah.
going.
I definitely remember when we were doing that, like it was nice to have another group of people who we could at least say we all don't understand it and we're all struggling together
Yeah.
because then we would struggle through it together too and try to find the answer and um yeah, I think that's huge, finding a network and a community and that's I think a lot of people who are in this group have seen the power of just having a group of people who are willing to answer questions and struggle with you. So I think that's huge, right? And that goes back to that well-rounded software developer, right? Which is you got to learn how to work in groups of people and network, and I think that's huge. Like the number one way that you're going to find a job right now in software development is networking. I mean, I'm sure you can say this, Randall. Like, do you think going to this recent cybersecurity conference, do you think it's easier to find a job going there and talking to people, or do you think it's easier just going on LinkedIn and clicking every easy apply for every cybersecurity job that's listed?
Yeah, so I just printed out a whole bunch of business cards before I went there, just
Yeah.
with like my name and the stuff that I've done so far, certifications and different stuff. And yeah, I know from just doing that, I made way more connections. And I actually, while I was there, I was offered a job. And so like
Yeah.
just being able to
Yeah.
go there to meet people in the industry, that was way more helpful than trying to do anything applying.
Yeah. And I think that's huge, right? They don't talk about like at no point in our boot camp did anybody say, "Hey, you should maybe attend a conference just to you know, get in
Yeah.
the world of being a software developer."
Plus, if I can add something.
Sure.
Uh, so I had been dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome around this because
Mm,
for me, still like this whole thing of information security, I still felt like it's somebody else that has that and not me. And so like when I was meeting people in industry and I was telling them the certifications that I've done, telling them I'm like top 1% and try hack me, doing a whole bunch of other stuff, they were like, oh my gosh, like we, why are you not like that's crazy. Not many people have those skills. And I was just like, really? Like that? Because to me, I still see like the mountain ahead of me. And maybe I've
Sure.
gotten to a little pinnacle on the way up, but that was helpful for me to kind of open my eyes and say, hey, you know, as far as I've come, this is something, because even while there's still a lot further to go, I've kind of beginning to make it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too, because I feel that imposter syndrome sometimes because this happens, I think, a lot more in tech because there's so many different technologies and frameworks and all the languages, all that stuff. And so when you look at your knowledge base versus the whole entire possibility of knowledge, it seems like you know nothing. And I think as humans, we just assume that other people out there know all of that stuff. And the reality is we're
Yeah.
just picking and choosing. Like we're seeing, oh, this person knows that and this person knows that. So we just assume people know all of that. But the reality is most people only know a small, small, small fraction. Um, and so it's important to have that realization is, having others who see, like, I mean, that's happened to me recently too, not in the conference perspective, but when I'm coaching people, and I've been coaching an intern with my job too. And that was something that was crazy to me. I mean, she's going to NYU for computer sciences, and she like was struggling with basic CSS, right? And that was mind blowing to me that I was like, whoa, like this is second nature to me. I could code something in my head and like just like say it to you. And she was struggling to, separate two things with like Flexbox, right? Which is like, I'm not saying that's not easy or that's easy, but um, it's just surprising when until you actually go out and you see the capabilities of other people, we just assume that everyone's a master at everything. So
Yeah.
anyway, having said that, I think we're sort of up to our 30-minute line. And yeah, so if you guys are looking for a way to actually, get a little bit more out of your coding, we are offering group mentoring. We have a student in there right now who's doing absolutely amazing. That's Chris. I'm sure he's in the comments there. Chris has been kicking butt and actually learning a lot, I think, right? And that's what we do. We basically have this chat, right? And then we have an educational portion. So you do get that education where we're going to teach you HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, all that good stuff. And then on top of that, we have an hour and a half of time where we can do all those things that you don't get in a boot camp, right? You don't get the opportunity to work with other developers. You don't get the opportunity to like ask other developers questions, and work on projects and build a path for your own education. Because I think that's another huge thing is that you go into a boot camp and they're just like, they feed you what they're willing to feed you, what their curriculum dictates. And every developer sort of has a different path. And that's what we like to do is help people find that exact path for them. So yeah. So if you're interested in joining that, oh, go ahead, Randall. You
Can
got
I add
something?
something?
Yeah.
So imagine that you're taking a course on Free Code Camp or Udemy or LinkedIn
Mm,
Learning, and you get to work with the person who created that course. That's essentially what
mm.
our group mentoring is. So we're going to guide you through step by step how to become a web developer. And when you have questions, when you have problems, we're
Which I
going to
think,
help guide you
again, is
through
like, sorry,
creating your own projects.
my good. Sorry about that. I was trying to respond to somebody, but yeah, Randall's right though. So yeah, we're building a course right now, and you're gonna have the opportunity to actually talk with us when we're doing that education and ask us any questions, along with all the other people in the group, right? Because that's super powerful, and it's something that you're gonna use when you get a job in tech. Is you're gonna need that, skill set of communicating with other people, collaborating, and building cool projects, which is the other thing that we allow you to do in here is we help you find projects that are meaningful and not just like a calculator app or a to-do list or something like that. We want you to build meaningful projects that you can add to your portfolio, um, that'll help you get a job in the future. So if you're interested in joining that, it is open enrollment right now. It won't be forever, but you can head over to codenoobs.io/mentoring, learn all about what you get in that group mentoring. It's $197 per month, which is actually really cheap when you think about it. It's $50 per group mentoring, which is a 2-hour session. So it's really like $25 an hour. You get all three of us. So paying us less than $10 an hour to teach you coding, like hands-on. And that's something that I like literally see all the time is people in these groups and they're like, who can teach me to code? We are those people. We will teach you to code. Okay. But it's not completely free because it's a lot of time and energy on our part. So, which is
And because if it was free, you wouldn't value it and you wouldn't do anything with it.
totally, yeah,
Take the time to invest in yourself. $10 an
exactly.
hour is not bad to invest in yourself because that means you're
Yeah,
actually going to do something.
Yeah.
absolutely. And we keep you accountable just as we keep each other accountable. So, like I said, it's codenoobs.io/mentoring. If you are in the group, we are starting at 10 o'clock today. And if you want the link, it's in your dashboard. You just go over to codenoobs.io/dashboard. And if you're in the group, you will be able to see the link under the mentoring tab. It'll be today's link. Or I think today we're covering advanced HTML. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer those. And if you are interested in group mentoring and have any questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. We'd be happy to answer those for you. And if you are in group mentoring, we will see you in approximately 22 minutes.
See you then.